episode 42 of Invisible Walls, just 2 days before the Pittsburgh Steelers win Super Bowl 43.
So says Madden.
I like how that's working out. So says I, a mad Steeler fan. Anyway, it is Super Bowl weekend. Hopefully you have a little bit of time set away for games. We do have a great show today. Also have an awesome episode tonight of Game Trailers TV on Spike TV at 1 a.m. It's the big 2009 preview show. As usual, there's a bunch of exclusives in the show. We have Fear 2 Project Origin, Red Faction Guerrilla, and the first ever footage of Wolverine Origins. I've been hearing through the grapevine that game is looking great. Also want to say that in the next couple weeks, you're going to see an episode of Game Trailers TV that you will simply not believe. Is that a little bit too much hyperbole, maybe? We actually locked something down for the show that we never thought we'd lock down and we're really excited about. Can't tell you yet, but stick around. It's going to be really cool. And sitting in on the show today, we have Grumpy McMarcus.
Nice save. Get off my lawn. That's all I have to say.
And the sheriff is back in town.
Hello, I'm here to sheriff.
And I did love the sheriff montage.
Good sheriffing ideas.
That was
freaking brilliant.
That was good.
And happy Lunar New Year to everyone a week after it happens.
Except see, now we're starting to build for the next montage.
Oh, yeah. Well,
We are. We were just building stuff for all of 2009.
Patrick Morales is in on the show today.
I hold no station like Justin does, but hopefully I'll regulate all the same.
Just keep kicking back the crops over this way.
Yeah.
Regulators. And Ryan St. Evans.
How you doing?
And here we go.
Listen, my anime friend, you know this is wrong, so what say you just don't do it? An ellipsis? What the hell is that supposed to mean?
All right, and next we have a very special guest. We have Brian Etheridge, who, as we hear, may be related to Melissa Etheridge.
A Melissa Etheridge.
A Melissa Etheridge. He is the producer on Eat Lead, The Return of Mad Hazard. Welcome to the show.
Hello, how are you?
So what's up? You brought the game by today. What specifically are you showing us that's new?
So last time you guys probably saw we were showing something that was a little earlier in the game, actually like around level 2 or something. This time we're showing you a much later level in the game. We're showing you some cutscenes that have Neil Patrick Harris in it, a lot more VO from Will Arnett, and a ton of new enemies. I think probably 3 or 4 different enemies that weren't shown the first time around. So a lot of new stuff.
Any show tunes in the game?
Show tunes. We tried to get South Pacific, but yeah, we couldn't afford it. So.
Now, this game sort of breaks down the fourth wall. It's
Definitely.
sort of self-referential. It's like the guy knows that he's in a video game. What are some of the fun things that you guys have done around that mechanic?
I mean, that's the basis of the whole game. The fact that we can have a character who is, number one, self-aware and also knows he's inside of a video game. We can poke fun at games. I mean, we can just poke fun at stuff that's been done 100 times over, or we can also just sort of use that to introduce new mechanics. So, for instance, we got these guys, the wafer thins, and they're essentially 2D. So when they turn on edge, they're paper thin. You can't even shoot them at all. So it just sort of introduces some new mechanics and gives a little bit of flavor to the game.
Now, when you do something like that, where you're sort of poking fun at video game conventions, does that then put an onus on you to make sure your game isn't full of video game conventions?
Well, yeah, definitely. But then again, we can always just say, oh, yeah, we're just totally poking fun of that. Yeah. Yeah, no, the fact that autosave, yeah. Oh, you didn't get that joke? Of course. Yeah. No, I mean, definitely there's room for that to happen. And of course we're going to, people are going to look at this game just like any other game. And so that's why we really wanted to take the time to make the gameplay portion good, so we have a really solid third-person shooter with really heavy focus on story, comedy, parody, and that kind of stuff.
So I'm really curious. I mean, I love the sense of humor in the game. Some of the voiceovers are actually really funny and actually seem like they won't get too repetitive. Mm-hmm. But you've got all these great pastiches, these parodies of various characters. I'm thinking Captain Carpenter in particular. Given the litigious nature of various companies within the industry, are there any characters that sort of hit the cutting room floor after your initial drug-fueled brainstorm?
Definitely, yeah. I'm good buddies with our lawyer now. I'll say that much. And
Remember the whole EA Rockstar debacle with the Simpsons game.
Yeah, we've had several conversations, and there's definitely some stuff that we thought, okay, this is a little touchy.
Like what?
Name.
Come on, names.
So we had some characters that were we called them, I think, U's at the time. But there was just a series of characters that would pop up. We got this tennis court in the game, and they were on there on the tennis court and doing some stuff like that. That may sound familiar. YUU. So we had things like that, and there was some stuff that was a little too close, and they're like, either not that one in particular, but some companies, our Lord would say, I know this guy. This company is, they're a little touchy, so watch it here. Do this, do that, or tone it back.
So suffice to say, you stayed away from Rockstar Games. Is that
That's it. Yeah. I would
Probably
say
anything from EA.
yeah.
Yeah, we everything that we got that we did, we ran through, we checked it, and sometimes we had to make a gut check and say, okay, this is a little touchy, or okay, no, we feel pretty good about this, First Amendment parody rights or whatever.
Yeah, technically you're covered, right? I mean, as long as it's parody, you're covered by.
Yeah, we're just trying not to be too close. So yeah, and realistically too, I mean, the other thing that we always try to point out too is we're not always making fun. A lot of people have drawn some comparisons from Captain Carpenter to a plumber that they know. Right, but it's not like we're trying to make fun of that guy because we love his games too, So we all play all the games that the plumber makes.
I love those plumber games.
Yeah, the plumber's a good guy, so we're not making fun of him. We're homaging. And that's true.
I understand you have another character in there who's a cook of some sort.
Yeah, there's a guy. His name is Master Chef. He cooks on a ship that's out in space. Actually, he's from an old video game that Marathon Software did called Crown of Light. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's Master Chef. He's an old buddy of Matt's. They know each other, and he'll make an appearance in the game. Matt gets to meet him, and he gives him some helpful advice and some upgrades and stuff.
Now, stuff like this only sort of takes a game so far. It's great that a game's funny and it sort of has that self-referential, but at the end of the day, what you spend most of your time doing is actually playing the game. So can you talk a little bit about what you guys have done to make sure that that's as fun as the content?
Yeah, so I mean, we get a good amount of mechanics from the content and from the joke. Like I said, they're one of the reasons we went with the whole it's a game inside of a game thing is because we could do things you can't do in a normal game. You can have guys, pop in on the fly with a cool hack effect and do sort of things. But if you're playing another game, let's say you're playing, any game that's, let's say you just download the RE5 demo and all of a sudden a zombie just materializes right in front of you and you go, what the f is that? That's a bug or this. But, we can do that. And as long as we make it look intentional, you'll see some stuff like that. And it's a lot of fun to play with.
So basically you're saying if the game's buggy, it's actually intentional?
Yeah, that's true. And if you call our customer service number, we already have the statement prepared. You are playing
operator.
You are playing a parody title. Press 1 to disconnect.
Now let's talk about the cover system a little bit.
Yeah.
How does it work? Inspired by Gears? Inspired by Kill.Switch?
I think a lot of people make the comparison to Gears right off the bat. I think that's sort of standard. I mean, obviously Gears wasn't the first game to do cover. Kill Switch. A lot of people have drawn comparisons to Gears when that came out.
Right.
I think it's just sort of an industry standard. We tried to make things that felt familiar, but then add our own flavor. So we have, the rotate around cover, the bounce from cover to cover if you're next to something. And we also have this thing called point cover. You just put your cursor on a cover object and press Y. It'll just go right to it. So that's kind of a step beyond, I think.
Now, do you poke fun about the fact that almost every game these days has a cover system? You have a little joke in there about that?
Cover system's serious business, Shane. You should shut up.
That's where you draw the line.
Kids love those things.
Yeah, we don't mess around with cover systems.
One of the things I did like about the cover system was that you can actually, when we were on cover on one of the trucks, you're in cover and you can actually slide around the entire truck while staying on cover without detaching or getting caught, which you can in a lot of other games. You end up jagging on the corner or it won't let you slide around. I did like that. I thought it was very cool. And
cover on moving objects too, the hanging meat in the meat locker. The cover's actually moving, yet you can still take cover behind it.
I can't tell you how long it took us to get that meat swinging. It takes a long time for us to swing our meat.
It takes me about 5 minutes.
What? 5 minutes of a stiff breeze.
That actually in particular is funny that you said that because that was like one of our prototype sections, and so there's these big hanging sides of beef, and for the longest time we were just like talking about it, and they're like, no, it's if we make an animated object, it's got to put a bone in it and stuff, and we make some stupid jokes about meat, it's got bones in it already, and it took us a long time to make that meat move like that. So
wow,
it's kind of cool. Yeah.
So let's talk about actually some of the effects, because obviously I do like the environmental effects. You've got these cool weapons and you get these upgrades, and then you turn to chrome at one point. Let's talk about those because they're really visually really cool, and they have an impact on gameplay.
Yeah, definitely. So I should start by saying, we're using Vicious Engine 2. The guys at Vicious Cycle made that engine from scratch. And a lot of it is so that they could do cool effects and stuff like that. And this is sort of our first project with it. So
Why did you guys decide to build your own engine instead of taking the easy route like everyone and using Unreal?
Vicious has a good reputation for building engines. They did the engine before Vicious Engine 1 was theirs. And so, from their point of view, it's a lot easier to just start from scratch and then build in the tools that they're going to need for the next project. And just have that on standby. So it was good for them. But some of the effects and stuff were things that we were like, okay, we want to prototype this new lighting thing, so let's get this effect. You mentioned the ice. The ice is one that came online, I think, fairly late in the game, but it was something that the guys have been working on for a while. So, when you activate the ice upgrade, you get this cool thing. It could Matt's arm gets covered with ice. You punch a dude, and the little crystals will form on him, and then eventually he'll shatter and stuff like that. So. Yeah, a lot of that was just experimenting and testing and pushing the boundaries of the new engine.
What about multiplayer options? Any plans?
We are single player right now. It doesn't mean there isn't something in store for Matt for the future, but what we really want to do this time around, at least, focus on the story. I mean, the story is everything to us. I mean, the gameplay is great, but we really knew that when we started to get Dave Ellis on the project, he's the writer, he did Deadhead Fred. We knew we'd have a good story, and we really wanted to hit hard on the story element side. And the comedy, we got Will Arnett and Neil Patrick Harris, right? And so all that stuff started to culminate. We were talking about multiplayer options a while back, and it seemed like, man, we're not going to be able to get this in multiplayer. Let's leave that for now. Let's focus on single player. So.
Now, when are you guys targeting to ship?
March, this coming March, so you're going to see it on the shelves pretty soon.
And what platforms?
360 and PS3.
How was building the engine for the PS3?
Ooh, not nearly as bad as, well, at least from my side. Of course, I'm at the publisher.
You weren't the one programming.
I was the one calling those guys, go, dude, sweet, you're working overtime tonight? All right, awesome. I'm going to go home and play Fable. No, it wasn't bad at all. From my perspective, we didn't have barely any hiccups PS3. We got the PS3 build running almost the same time we got the 360 build running. When it came online, there was one point where the framing was faster on the PS3 than it was on the 360. And then, as we started to put all the systems in and stuff, I mean, they pretty much balanced out completely. So 360 wasn't bad, or PS3 wasn't bad at all.
So in March, 360, PS3, no PC yet?
No PC.
See,
Keep
right.
asking me, though. Yeah.
All right, well, thank you very much for stopping in, and we
you.
can't wait to check out the game when it's done.
Great, thank you very much.
When I was in my prime, I had a string of hits longer than my... Well, let's just say it was long.
All right, now we rarely talk about PC games on this show. We get some criticism for it, and probably rightly so. We probably should concentrate on the PC a little bit more, considering how many frickin' many PCs there are out there.
I got one.
I got one.
I have two.
That does not surprise me, Marcus. You have one. Is one your competition PC, and the other one like your practice PC?
One's my gaming rig, the other one runs Vista.
Zing!
It's funny because it's true.
Yeah, but it's great for streaming porn to my 360.
Right.
Pro tip.
So we're going to talk about Dawn of War 2, an awesome real-time strategy game that's coming out in the very near future. Mm-hmm. We've been running some media on the game. It looks awesome. I'm not the world's biggest RTS fan. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah, well, we jumped into the beta. We had to buy Soulstorm on Steam to get in early, and then THQ sent us a bunch of keys, so I'm out $750.
What the expense reports for, Steven?
But so it's only the multiplayer. It's definitely beta. They've already patched it even before it went to like the full open beta. Today we're taping on Monday, so things are already constantly changing. But it's cool. You get to mess around with all the four races, and a couple of maps, and you can play versus the computer. So if you haven't played it before, there's like little tool tips and stuff if you want to like jump in. I'm liking it, but I'm way more interested in the single player that I've seen. I got to see like a 40-minute demo back at Leipzig, and it looked crazy. It looked like it's going to be really good. The multiplayer is like so far seems kind of solid for an RTS, but nothing's really making it like stand up and be like, sorry, StarCraft.
It definitely takes on some interesting dynamics, though, because one, the resource gathering is almost completely automated.
It's a streamlined experience. You capture points, and they give you your resources. So as long as you control those points, you continually have resources. But you're not really building buildings or anything. You can protect your resources, and there's kind of buildings there. But it's a lot more combat oriented. And you have a kind of like, the commander, I'd say, is almost like an avatar-like character.
I'd say probably the hero unit.
Yeah, that you constantly control, has a lot of cool abilities. You can equip it with stuff, can summon things and level up. And if it dies, you can even resurrect him. So you're always fighting. There's no real like end game. Even though if your opponent captures all the resource points and you only have your one little hero, you're not going to be doing much. So Dawn of War has the quality, and they're obviously working on the balancing and stuff. And the units are cool, the RPG elements are cool, and it's nice that there are resources, so there is a little bit of that element. But the way that it's streamlined, it's a lot of very combat oriented, a lot of like fun, quick strategies to work around with. Because even if you equip some item, it will let you do one ability, but it will take away another ability.
Okay, so there's a quick news blurb we saw out on the interwebs today. What was it? The arcade sticks for Street Fighter 4 have sold so much that something happened in China.
Yes.
What's up with that?
Oh no. Well, as everyone may or may not know, Capcom is partnering with Mad Catz. Yes, the Mad Catz, to come out with a line.
Is that with the Z at the end?
It is with
It
a Z.
is.
That's because
just
it
like
is
our
G.
Or
babies.
Z for our European viewers.
But yeah, they partner with Mad Catz to roll out a line of Street Fighter 4 peripherals, arcade sticks.
The sticks look nice. Have you
no,
guys
they're
played
great.
with them yet?
Oh yeah, I got to about a week ago. Yeah.
Are they better than the ones we got from Japan? Those sticks are a little too loosey-goosey for my taste, the ones we got from
Yeah,
Japan.
but that's actually the Japanese style, so that's par for the course. Something interesting that Mad Catz is doing is they actually were hardcore dedicated with studying the Japanese parts, the sticks that people would make on their own. So they were really adamant about capturing that small niche scene of making sticks good and bringing it out to a mass audience. And I guess that they were kind of short-sighted there, because one of the biggest news stories to come out of that is they made about 3,000 sticks for the Tournament Edition version of Street Fighter 4, and they got over 6 times that amount in pre-orders.
And so what's the story? We haven't told the story yet that's prompted
Yes,
this whole
the
discussion.
story. So, as I mentioned, they made about 3,000 of these limited edition sticks. They got 6,000, or 6 times that amount in pre-orders.
6 times 3 is
18,000.
18,000.
Yeah, and it's probably rising.
That's a lot of sticks.
And what's kind of funny about that is that
Styx were a great band, weren't they?
so something that's kind of funny is that with all the reprints that they're doing, they're actually keeping the factories open in China through the Lunar New Year, which is apparently a huge deal for the Chinese.
It's like their
people.
national holiday.
Yeah. So that's just kind of an interesting.
So they made them
news
work over the one day of the year where they're supposed to have off work.
Yeah.
And then the workers revolted, and then they tear gassed them and made them go back to work.
Yeah, basically.
As long as Americans are happy.
People need to pull out those Hadoukens.
Let's just say that last comment by Shane Satterfield, I called you Slatterfield again, was actually just conjecture, and he totally made it up. So we don't know if they
They're going to tear
they
gas
tear
them and
gas
make them-
people.
no. It's a communist country. Either that or they take their toilet paper away.
I don't know. Actually, I've heard there are actually factories that are closed and
Word.
people don't have jobs. So maybe they can pull in people from factories that have been shut down that don't have their whatever pathetic earnings, a day to even get some food. They can go make Street Fighter sticks. So it's a win-win.
I want to know how much lead is going to be in these things. That's all.
Just don't lick it.
I want to know which is worse, getting tear gassed or having no toilet paper.
All three
Can you
at the
imagine
same
being
time is
tear gassed
the worst.
while you have no toilet paper?
Over the lunar
know how
New
to
Year.
double volunteers.
Year.
You wouldn't know when to stop wiping.
Crying.
I tell you what, if you were tear gassed with no toilet paper, it might lead to a full moon.
Oh, that's this week's headlines.
Master, I must speak with you.
Wait outside, Afro.
Now.
All right, now we're going to talk about Afro Samurai. Popular. Is that even manga, Patrick?
I'd say it was a manga turned anime turned video game. Yeah.
Is it anime though?
Yeah. It's made by Madhouse.
Actually, let's define anime
Check
right
out
now.
Spike.
What makes it a cartoon or an anime?
I guess most people would subscribe by the notion that a cartoon is made by a Western studio, whereas anime is Eastern.
So anyway, now we have a game based on the anime cartoon manga.
Yeah, apparently.
Apparently.
And how excited are we?
We're real excited. Should
Well,
we
there is
say
an
that-
afro in it, and there is a samurai.
Do you get to wear the afro while you play the game?
It's a power up you get along the way.
You are shitting me. It's a power up.
Now, should we mention that Monty worked on this game?
Yeah, I have no
Aloy?
clue what he did, but
Yeah, I'm not.
He worked on the combat system, from what he said.
Oh, did he?
And hopefully we'll get him on the show in the not-too-distant future. We talked to him about it.
like the animation for
Yeah.
the combat
For those who
system?
don't know, Monty is the guy who did Haloid and the Dead Fantasy series, the awesome CG user movies that have debuted on Game Trailers. So what do you think, Patrick? You're playing the game.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely hard to come out with a pretty original, action adventure game these days when it's been done over so many times. But I think Afro Samurai does a pretty decent job of setting itself apart, mainly through the, I guess they call it the focus attack.
Is it? I guess it is. I mean, it sounds like Street Fighter, and we've been playing a lot of Street Fighter too. Yeah. I know you can
Maybe you have
hit a
Street
button in
Fighter in
slow
mind.
time and then split people,
Yeah.
with your sword, and wherever your sword hits, they will, body parts will fly from that point.
Yeah, I guess how Montium described it is that you were sniping with a sword, which is pretty much what it is. You slow down time, and then in that small amount of that little window of opportunity, you get to point your sword, and once you let go of the button that's slowing down time, you go and go straight through someone.
Now, how accurate is it? Because he was talking to us, and he's like, how have you guys sliced off an ear yet? So it made it sound like you can really get, take off a single finger.
I think you can definitely kind of, if you can slice like the edge of someone's arm and you'll have like some arm salami or something. I think you can do ears and noses, but honestly, the body parts tend to get lost after you.
Yeah.
They don't, not that they disappear instantly. There's just, it's a quick animation and there's a lot of blood too.
Yeah,
It's really bloody.
Yeah, limb dismemberment's definitely a huge thing in the game. And something that's funny is that every once in a while there's a mini game called Body Limb Poker, and you're supposed to hack off certain limbs to create a combination like head, hand, and you get bonus points assigned to you based on that.
Now, what is there to the game aside from the obvious slicing repertoire?
That's pretty much it.
That's it, huh?
Well,
Yeah.
No platforming, no puzzles.
There's
no...
a little bit
There's
of
some light
platforming,
platforming
but-
elements, yeah.
But it's
I
pretty
think
much
the combat is a little better. It's
It's definitely the focus
probably
of the
lean
game.
toward the
So it's
combat.
pretty
No
much
pun
here's a gang
intended.
of dudes. You wipe them out. You move on. Another gang of dudes.
Fight a
wipe 'em
boss
out.
sometimes.
Yeah.
What are the boss fights like? Does it use the whole slicing mechanic?
Actually, during the boss fights, the slicing mechanics are kind of rendered null because they're pretty much impervious to them. So you pretty much fall back on your regular, hack and slash combos, no focus attacks.
Well, basically, the beefier enemies, if you do one of the really hard, focus slices, it'll do damage to him. But you can't just go up to the boss
Slice
and
her
cut his head off.
Yeah.
That would be sweet.
It's too bad because you'd like to. Some of
So
the
the-
first boss fight or the second one's a little frustrating.
Yeah,
to me.
he's a beezy.
Dude has a flamethrower and he's just kind of a dick.
and you have a sword.
All right, so I have to ask, the biggest selling point of the game is these focus slashings and decapitations.
No, the
And
biggest
they
selling
pull 'em
point
out.
is that it's an Afro Samurai game.
I would say the visuals are pretty good.
The visuals are actually pretty
Soundtrack
good.
by the
yeah.
RZA.
Inspired by the RZA.
I think you
Wait,
produced
RZA
it.
didn't
Bobby-
actually make it?
What is
Bobby
inspired?
Digital?
It says inspired by the RZA in the beginning.
What does that mean? He sat around and smoked
That's
weed with a bunch
bullshit.
of dudes and was like, go make this track.
Lay down this track.
I'm sure his voice is on there. I know he produced it. Yeah, he imagineered the whole thing.
Their musicians sat down and listened to a bunch of Wu-Tang. And
Maybe.
No, I think that they have a
Ghost
few
Dog
different. They have a
soundtrack.
few different artists on there. This is something that we would need to look up before we, so it's right back to fact. But I'm sure there are real recognized artists on it, and the soundtrack sounds pretty cool when we're not capturing with the music off and we can't hear it.
Mediocre outlook. How do you guys feel about it?
I'd say it's a pretty decent first step for the series, I guess you can call it, because they're working on a second one apparently. Here's hoping that the second one will be better. The first one's not that bad. I'd say give it a rent if you love the TV show. If not,
Is the whole slicing mechanic worth a rent just to try it out and see if you like it?
truth be told, it actually
wait for
is
the
pretty.
demo.
Yeah, hope for demo. Or truth be told, it's actually pretty gratifying when you cut a guy directly in half.
Oh, like Conan the Librarian
Yeah.
in UHF?
Yeah.
Like Kung Lao. Kung Lao stuff.
It actually is pretty cool when you get it to pull off, but it's not gonna blow you away.
Looks like this is the end for Afro Samurai. You want to help him out? Be my guest.
All right, next up is On the Hook, where we answer your questions. We are running out of time, so we're going to get right to it. Marcus, you have the first one.
I do, and it's from Vizabi, and he asks, what is G? No, he doesn't. He doesn't. He asks, with the economic problems finally taking toll on the gaming industry, what are your thoughts on how other companies will react? Do you think they'll stick to what's safe or follows how EA used to be, or do you think they will try and reach out for new ideas? I think we're going to see a lot of sequels. I think we're going to see a lot of safe licensed games. I think we are going to see a lot more development for the iPhone and various other little, killer apps. I'm hoping there's still going to be some great original content coming through, but I don't hold out much hope. I think this is going to be a big year for sequels and licensed games, and I think we'll probably still feel the knock-on into next year.
I don't get it. The economic problems are not taking a toll on the gaming industry.
No, they're not taking a toll on the retail section of the games industry.
Well, that's all that matters.
But they are taking a toll with regards to the companies who are laying off. The companies
why
are
are they
laying off.
doing that?
That's because it's like GTA. They were like, we're going to sell 18 million copies, and they only sell 15 million.
Gee, we only turned $10 billion a profit
but
last
when you're
year.
when you're a publicly traded company,
Yeah.
like Take-Two is, it affects you if you don't meet your sales
I mean,
quota.
what games really didn't sell up to expectations?
Madden.
Didn't sell to expections. But that's
Rock
what happens
Band.
that happens every gen, though. I mean, the first 3 years they sell really well, and
I
it
think
starts to take
Sony's
off.
probably a little disappointed with some of their first-party sales.
Probably Little Big Planet was a bit of a disappointment.
And everything EA did that was
Risky and
original. I mean, Mirror's Edge, Dead Space briefly flirted with the
well.
top 10, and then it dropped out.
I think the situation you're going to be looking at now is the
But
companies.
that happens every year, is what I'm saying. Like, there's nothing different about this. The industry grew year over year. It's one of the only industries that did grow last year.
Yeah,
but
but
where did
even
most
that-
of the money go? Nintendo.
They were expecting it to grow more, though.
No, that's not true. Nintendo.
Well, we looked at the top selling games of last year and the top selling console. We know how much the Wii sold, and we saw that 4 of the top 5 selling games were all Wii titles,
Yeah.
and Wii first party titles at that. So Nintendo took almost 50% of the industry last year.
I wouldn't say it was anywhere near
When
50%.
it comes to the top selling sales and top selling consoles, you actually
No,
put those
if you
sales
figure out the
together.
dollar money, I don't think it's 50% of the total revenue.
But I think what the other companies are doing now is stockpiling as much liquid assets as they've got, and they're basically cutting people loose right now, not investing in new products and keeping stuff rolling
But they've
along.
got
so
to
they're
make games
protected
to
in the
make
future.
money. That's what they do.
And that's
like
why-
a gas station, like firing its gas attendant and not pouring gas.
Self-service. Make your
Unfortunately,
own
that,
game.
I'm not saying it's right. It's the corporate mentality, dude. That's the way they look at these things. They don't, they
It's
say
all about
we've
stock
got
picking.
franchises.
suffer.
But I mean,
Yeah.
EA is still putting up Brutal Legend, so they're...
Well, EA's putting up
Bastions
Brutal
of
Legend, and Brutal Legend was,
creativity.
bought and it was 70 to 80% done. But then again, there's whole studios that are being laid off and whole developers that are being shut down. And so that's because new projects are not being greenlit. If it's not a Madden, if it's not a Tiger Woods, if it's not a GTA, every game has to be AAA right now. And the problem is that a lot of developers, or publishers rather, have a false expectation of what is AAA. We had this discussion about Tom Clancy's End War, how disappointed Ubisoft were with their sales. That's because they released it at the wrong time for a new IP. It was a friggin' RTS on the consoles, and it wasn't a great game, even though Ubisoft blindly said, this is a AAA game. There's nobody in these companies anymore, in the big companies, who have the stones to turn around and say, this is a B freaking game. And it's only the smaller developers who will hold their hands up and say, you know what, this is a fun game. It's not the world's greatest game. It's not going to be GTA. Buy it. It's going to be a little bit of fun. Those are the only ones who are actually putting stuff out, just like the indie studios in movies.
All right,
That
next.
sounds like something Madden himself would say.
All right, Justin, you have the next question.
We'll warp over here to Super Saiyan 18. But each year in the game industry, there seems to be a few games that don't meet expectations. Any games in 2009 that are looking like they could be disappointing. I'm really paraphrasing this guy here, but I don't have too many concerns really. All the big titles I'm looking forward to, Street Fighter. That's really it. I'm pretty selective, but
Kind of early to be picking.
it's hard to say.
We're like 20 days into
Will
2009.
I'm pretty
Cold Step
trusting,
DS
too.
live up to your expectations?
I think
I don't even know if it's going to get released. You shouldn't bring that up.
I mean,
It's not really
in
known.
the full email, the guy actually did say, games in the past like Too Human, a couple of games came out last year, and yes, there have been those games that have come out.
It can be hard to call them before. I really like to give people benefit of the doubt.
I think one game I'm a little nervous about is God of War 3. Because my fear is that they make God of War 2 with a couple new weapons or whatever, but otherwise the game is the same. Primarily because sort of the people who have been the stewards of that franchise for the last 2 iterations have left. And I fear that new team is going to be like, okay, well, we got it up to where Jaffe and Barlog got it, and now let's just polish the heck out of it and get it out there. So hopefully they'll take the time to get that game right. I'm a little nervous that it might just end up as a high-res God of War 2, but I'm keeping my fingers crossed because I really like that series.
I'm really scared for Alan Wake should it make its debut this year. I think if it does come out, Microsoft are pinning a lot of hopes on it. You know, if not officially, that's generally the buzz throughout the industry. This game's been in development so long, and it's going to suffer from all the problems that we've had with games like Too Human. In development too long.
Expectations way too high.
People, it's going to be, you know, it's just going to...
Oh, I got one. Duke Nukem Forever.
Yeah, that's coming out the week after Alan Wake, in fact. Yeah. On the Phantom console.
I'm looking for some alien toilet to park my bricks. Who's first?
All right, the last question is from Sid Islam. Is that right?
Sid Islam.
Sid Islam.
Sid Islam.
I don't know what that means. Shane, I was just wondering, what is the deciding factor in reviewing games? Why is there no review of Jumper?
Because it's shite!
I don't even...
I didn't even know they made it.
They actually made two games.
Isn't it actually called Jumper Griffin's Story?
That's right. There were two games
I don't know how I know
for the Jumper movie that actually were worse than the movie.
Wow, that's saying something. Is it because reviewing that abysmal game will make you implode? Or certain games...
After I imploded the first time, I did not.
I don't want to do it again.
We've just rebuilt you.
Are certain games worth reviewing over other games? By the way, keep up the good work. Let's see. This sort of brings up a bigger topic about review scores. A lot of people say that review scores these days only use the 6 to 10 scale, and really that's not true. The issue is we have to spend a lot of time reviewing games. We have to do video reviews. That's all we do. So when we look at what games are coming out, we really have to look at what manpower we have and see what we can get done. Reviewing a game like Jumper isn't good for us. It isn't good for you. The game sucks. You guys know it sucks. We know it sucks. For us to spend that much time, that much money, that much effort to review a game that we all know already is probably not going to be up to your standards. It's kind of pointless. Getting back to the 7 through 10 scale, just because we don't review games that aren't scoring 1.8s or 2.7s or 3.9s or whatever, doesn't mean those games don't exist. So if we were to review every game that was ever released, I think you would probably see that broad distribution across the 1 through 5 instead of the 5 through 10. So, you know, I've heard a lot of cries on message boards lately about getting rid of scores, just writing your opinions about the game and not giving it a score because people only use the 7 to 10 scale or whatever. I think the guy Paul Wedgwood or whatever who did Enemy Territory Quake Wars came out saying that it was ridiculous or whatever. I just think that you're not realizing that we're not reviewing a lot of those crap games because we're spending a lot of money on something that 5,000 people are going to watch. So I guess, did I even answer the question there?
You know, I think you did, but you bring up a valid point. Every iteration of, you know, in the console life cycle, we get to this stage and everybody starts bitching and moaning about, you know, whether you've reviewed something too high or too low. And I've had conversations with you in the past where, you know, I don't like the 1 to 5 scale, I prefer the 1 to 10 or the 1 to 100, and where does it break out? At the end of the day, you need a score because opinions, sometimes people don't have time to go through a whole video or, you know, read a whole review. They'll go to the score, whether it's an A, B, whatever. You need those. And for every developer who bitches and moans about getting a good, you know, good score, because I'm learning now that Metacritic scores are being tied into their bonus structures.
It's been that way for a while.
How about instead of bitching about it, stop producing shit. Make the games better, make them more original, put better graphics in them, make them more playable, and stop copying everybody else. Do something innovative, do something cool for sake. If people like your games, you'll get a higher score. You get a higher review score, generally leads to new avenues of revenue. People buy the game, you get a sequel, you can go back and eat more Cheetos.
Yeah, I think Mr. Wedgwood may have been a little salty over the poor sales of Enemy Territory Quake Wars. The game kind of tanked, or they worked on it for a long time, and they had had a lot of success with Enemy Territory in the past. So I think it may have just been a little bit of sour grapes on his part. But yeah, to answer your question, we definitely do prioritize games. There are certain games we pretty much know we're not going to review way before they ever come out. We try to review as many as we can.
We review some bad games, though.
We do.
We make Blood Rift to them.
I think we review bad games when there might be an expectation that it might be good, or if it's an old franchise that they're reviving. I think then we're more likely to review a bad game. You know, we're always going to review a Sonic game, even though the last 4 years those games have sucked.
I think you're being a little generous there.
Because we know the audience is there, and people want to know if the new Sonic game is good. But if it's some piece of shovelware that's coming out on the Wii, like off-road, tricycle riding or whatever, like we're not going to review it.
But we'll do gameplays.
Yes, and hopefully that's good enough for you guys. All right, that's going to do it for this week's show. Man, things are slow in the industry right now. Usually it's crazy.
Oh, they're slower than a snail's erection, seriously.
Yeah. Usually I get 4 or 5 packages with games a day. Last week I got 2 packages all week.
And are those the games we covered today?
They are, in fact. So bear with us, people. It's going to pick up. It is January. The industry is always slow right now. A couple good games coming up in February, that's for sure. And don't forget tonight, big 2009 preview on Game Trailers TV on Spike TV at 1 a.m. 3 big exclusives. Don't miss it. We'll see you next week.